Okay, so we're going over our Exodus 20 notes. And these are instructions. These are the 10 commandments. So they say the 10 commandments on there, but that's what they are, as far as written down. So we have the Lord came to the people. Well, Moses came from Exodus 19, and they had came out from obeying God. He said he was going to send the chambers so the people not to get near the mountain. So we have all that scene where they didn't get near the mountain because anybody gets near it, they would die. And then the Lord gave these instructions, these 10 commandments. Like the people heard the 10 commandments being said to them, spoken to them. And the 10 commandments were listed 1 through 10. Now, 4 of these commandments tell you how to love God and Him alone. And the rest of the 6 tell you how to love others. So you always want to remember that when you're going through them. It makes it easier to remember. We have 10 fingers, 10 toes. You could use them either or, however you want to count. But it's a good way to keep track of them. Some time back when I was trying to, a few years back, and I also remember this. I don't know why. It wasn't that it was hard, but I could say honestly it was, because now seeing how I applied them to my life, it's so easy to remember what you don't do or you've had to fight through. It's really, really easy to remember versus what you still haven't fought through and you're not aware of because you don't have that sacrifice you've made for it to say, okay, I've been there, done that. You're not going to forget. So it is an importance to apply these rules. Apply these commandments to your life. Then it'll keep track of who you are. And okay, so this is the first commandment. You shall have no other God but before me, no other God but God. So, number 2, you shall not make any idols. Number 3, you shall not take the Lord's name in vain. Number 4, keep the Sabbath day holy. And those are the ones to love God. And he said, I am a jealous God, so do not worship any other gods. So one translation says that he made everything from the heavens above to the heavens below. And another translation says everything from the heavens above to, it says below, and the water of the earth and everything in them. The sea, actually, that's what this New Living Translation uses, which is also significant to a lot of other things. Like I said, this Holy Scripture is so complex that it goes through just various forms of unraveling itself to our souls. It goes it goes to the process of going through our worldly self, to our spiritual self, and to our made one with God self, that we experience it so many different kind of ways. But it is things you have to grow into. It takes time for you to get through those stages in life. So we have that the four ways, and those are the 4 to love God. And then it says, honor your father and mother. Number 5. Number 6, thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, and thou shalt not covet. So we all obviously know if we honor your father and mother, it says you will have a long life. You shouldn't murder. And once we get into the Deuteronomy, Leviticus, when we get more into the laws, these will be more distinguishedly explained so you understand as far as how murder is concerned. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Everybody knows what adultery is. When you cheat against married couple, really anything. When you're God's, you can't give yourself to anything else but him and anything else that is his will. And if you go any other way, you can't. Like he said, he doesn't accept that. It's not good. And then he even said that the sins of the parents will go on the children from one generation to another generation. And that's more speaking of a spiritual sense, because the spirit keeps flowing. It has to stop. It has to stop. It has to stop. And that's why Christ came, because he goes through all the lifetimes together with us, through all the past experiences of this world that has happened to the final one where he is with us, that we'll be able to be able to be free from those sins of our parents or so on, if we receive Christ for ourselves. But this is also something that we should not forget and apply it to ourselves when we think of our children, because it says it'll affect your household. And we don't want everyone to forget that. Your household and people around you, and it does for the same reason. It's a spiritual battle. It says, thou shalt not steal. You shall not bear false witness to your neighbor, meaning you shouldn't lie about something. Thou shalt not covet. You shouldn't want. Like, oh, I wish I had that. I wish I had that. I've met a lot of people that, not even, I'm just going to say today I was driving home and I see all these nice and wonderful things around me. And I don't know what everybody holds in their heart or what they have, but the things that I've experienced, that I've seen, I wouldn't trade them for anything. And they haven't all been great and wonderful. Some have been harder than I could bear, but they're all God's riches and God's glory. Nothing in this world could have gave me that. So I wouldn't trade my spot where I was at to anything else that I've seen around me, because he has given me his unfailing love. Okay. And then, so that was our 10 commandments. And there's one verse that I wanted to share that Christ gave when he came. And he said, this was if you go to the book of Matthew 22:37 through 40, then these are the words that it says. Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind." And this says, and second, and equally as important, love your neighbor as yourself. And the entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. And it is so true. Because if you love God, the 4 rules that we have to love God would obviously apply to not using his name in vain, to keeping the Sabbath day holy, to honoring him and don't have any other idols, only him. And then as far as the other 6, if we love somebody, we wouldn't want to steal from them. We wouldn't want things that they have for ourselves. We wouldn't want to murder them. We wouldn't want to steal from them. We wouldn't want to do any of those things to them. So Christ was, murder them. Of course, honor your father and mother. Out of love, you do that. If you love them like yourself, no matter what they've done, you have to appreciate who you are and who they made you to be regardless. And you have to love them for that. And you'll live a long, good life, because that burden won't be on your heart. And then, and that would be it. And we're going to leave it there. And that was Exodus 20 through 26. And like I said, just keep the basics down. That God said to them, and don't build an altar with rock or anything uncut stone. If you ever get a chance, you can go through YouTube or to get the Book of Enoch. I think Barnes & Noble sells it for maybe no more than $10 or more for a softcover book of, or the audio, like I said, through YouTube. The Book of Enoch is it's a little bit complicated if you don't know your Holy Scripture a little bit, but you could get a little bit more details, even basic details, down to the beginning, the worldly details where it says like a little bit more complex about your father and mother and about God and keeping them whole. It'll help you out a lot if you get some time. It's a little bit long, but even the audio book I think is about 3 hours, but still, you squeeze in 10-15 minutes here and there. It's so worth it. Make it applicable to your life, and it will just open doors for you. That's one thing. It's not going to make you a worse person if you learn something. Nothing that you educate yourself with that is for the best is going to make you a worse person. So we'll leave it at that. But I was talking about the Book of Enoch because it says right here that don't cut the stones or the rocks that you give me, because there's something about if you read in the Book of Enoch, and it goes to a little bit more details where some of the angels that were kicked out from heaven in the beginning had these special skills that they came and taught man how to do this and do that, and let's say some art, language, reading, different. It's a little bit an extensive list, but it'll help open these up. And the Book of Enoch is in the Dead Sea Scrolls, so they're like very ancient texts, but they're holy scripture. So definitely something you want to use. Make applicable to reading this and adding it to your studies. So you can understand a little bit more about why I said don't carve things, because if not, it would not be holy. It wouldn't be holy because it wasn't something that God made. Anything that is man-made is not God-made. Meaning we have all these GMO seeds and they can't reproduce themselves. Man has to help it grow for itself, because it's not going to drop the seed and reproduce or replenish like it should naturally. That's what he means by it's not holy anymore. It's not what I made it to be. You messed with what my natural creation is. Same as, a lot of this world is doing with a little bit of everything, even ourselves, as human beings. A lot of people are overstepping the laws of nature, but we'll leave it at that. And then he says, don't climb up an altar so people could see your nakedness. The altar is to God, and it's not for something to climb up on. And people are going to see your nakedness if you're going to do the altar. These are things that mean so many more other things, because if you look around to all the other people's way of worship and religion and the things they do, you will see how some of these things don't go with what the law says. So you want to keep those things, remember them, and then we'll be back to go to Exodus 21. I just wanted to keep that for itself because it is preserved for eternity. But the 10 Commandments, so we could remember those just in one lesson. So, all right, thanks. We're back. Okay.